This week on the Expired podcast, we talked to Chattanooga's previous district attorney, Neil Pinkston, who is now taking on the Andersons case. For taking time to talk to us.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad that Jed Mescon got me in touch with Melidia, and then, of course, she was able to get us in touch with you, and
Yes.
I was glad to have the Andersons come to you and talk to you.
Yeah, it's a tragic situation.
Absolutely.
Yes,
so what are the next steps? What's going on with the case?
Well, I mean, I think we got to, when you ask the next steps, we got to kind of break it down. When you mean next steps that we're going to take, or law enforcement?
All of the above.
Yeah, I think just in general, one of the things that Natalie and I, obviously, we aren't attorneys, and we are definitely not as well versed in like the legal world and statutes and things like that. But I guess we could kind of start with like what's justice look like for the Andersons and for Gavin, and like what has to happen, or what do you all need to do to get close to that?
And this is just based on my experience as a prosecutor. Generally, an individual is found deceased and an investigation begins. And then an investigation concludes whether the death was by accident, suicide, homicide. And then the medical examiner makes that finding, and the law enforcement presents their findings to the district attorney to determine whether a crime occurred. Well, in this instance, they didn't do an autopsy, and from what they told the Andersons, it was just, kind of an unintentional asphyxiation that killed him. And so from what I've gathered, everything that I've reviewed so far, and still digging through some of it, law enforcement is finished. They're not, the Andersons met with the district attorney, and I think from the law enforcement prosecution side, they're finished. But I do think there's some further things that could be looked into to make a determination if we could provide them any further answers that are missing.
Right.
Like, the phone forensics, the digital forensics, I'm sure you're familiar with those.
Yes.
His phone, there's a report that says a report from the police that the Andersons got said there's a forensics phone report, but it's never included in any of the records they got through public records request. So I'm trying to determine what, if any, of those exist. And I think maybe a crime scene evaluation, meaning we provide any reports about the crime scene and all the photographs to experts who determine whether they agree with what someone says or they disagree. And so that's something that we're looking into. And also, I think something that's highly important is going to be a re-interview of all the people that were in that area or known to him within the couple of days before his death and after, because it seems that one of them has come forward, and the name escapes me, to the Andersons, saying that they want to tell what really happened. Now, I don't know what that means, what that person means by that when they say that, but they let us know that, I think it was last week.
Okay.
So if we were able to secure a phone expert, crime scene expert, of course, all that costs money, and then do re-interviews, then perhaps we could give them more of an answer than they currently have. But we may never be able to give them the full answer. I don't know that yet. It's kind of hard when, starting from behind in the way that they are, especially without the autopsy, can be very troublesome because, let's be honest, that could have told us all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But, as we know, we don't have that. And so, that's a problem. But the witnesses may say something different now that kind of change, the issue, but I just don't know the answer to that yet.
Yeah. The guilty always, I mean, I don't know how someone can live with that kind of guilt.
Well, it's interesting. Sometimes it takes people years before they, break under the guilt. But apparently it sounds like one of them now wants to talk, which is interesting to me.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And so, sometimes when one talks, then everybody, is trying to get in line to make something happen, if that makes sense. And so those are the main things that Melody and I told the Andersons that, that were possibilities to look into: the phone, the crime scene interpretation, and witness re-interviews.
Go for it, Natalie.
Who conducts those interviews?
Who would?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that depends on if we could, if we could find someone to do the phone, an investigator that does phone work in crime scene. They would also do, obviously, the interviews. The key with the interview is you want at least two people, because if a statement was played in court and only one person recorded the interview, and maybe something happened to that person, there's no way you could authenticate that recording that it actually occurred. Right. And so you would need at least two people to sit down with individuals that are willing to and interview them on the record about what was going on.
And would that typically be someone currently in law enforcement? Would it be an attorney?
No, at this point, since it appears they're finished, it would probably be some type of private investigator along and their team, along with an attorney. But like I said, you got to make sure that there's at least two there to have that statement admissible if it ever came to the point it could be admissible.
Okay. In your opinion and in your experience, what are some of the things that I know you mentioned, like the autopsy that doesn't exist, and an investigation that, is spotty if we even want to call it an investigation.
I would say spotty is being kind.
Yeah. I don't even think it earns the title investigation. But what are some of the other things that you see with this case that just don't make sense and also don't go with the typical process and protocol that should have happened?
One thing, as far as protocol, I'll start with protocol, and then I'll try and wrap back around to the first part of it. Protocol is, I've never really seen a situation where a family was told an autopsy occurred, and then they, cremate the loved one, and then they find out that the autopsy never occurred.
Yeah.
So that's in my experience, that's not normal protocol. And if they weren't going to do an autopsy, I don't know why they told them one occurred. Whoever told them that it occurred. So that's a big problem. And other things that I would think about, I don't know if law enforcement ever developed a consistent timeline, like what was going on in his life in the last 48 hours. Mm-hmm. Like how long had he been, the autopsy could have also given us a window of how many hours he had been deceased. And from that, you can then backtrack and make a timeline of what was he doing? Was he by himself or other people there? Things of that nature. And too, that after that there was evidence left at the scene, it was not collected. Some of it was thrown away, which is unfortunate because I think there were several pillows that were thrown away, and maybe a blanket with blood on it. And if those had been kept, they could have been sent for DNA analysis to see if it was just his blood on there. Is it blood or is it someone else's?
Yeah.
And so those things that are lost to time they're just lost to time, unfortunately. And so you try to work on what limited stuff you have left to try and provide the family a better idea, a better idea of maybe what happened to their son. In the throwing away of evidence and not collecting certain things, that shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. And so, they're dealt with the reality. There's evidence missing that will never be recovered. And so what, if any, answers can we find?
I have a question. With all of the mistakes that the police and investigators made and the medical examiners made, are there repercussions for this?
Well, that's an interesting question, and that would have to be, generally if someone alleges that a law enforcement officer did something, wrong, they have to report that to whatever agency it is in their internal affairs. That's kind of how that starts.
Okay, and there's no statute of limitations on that?
Well, I mean, as far as an internal affairs investigation, no, not really. I guess the statute question comes when you think about, is there a potential suit against somebody? And, I'm not that far into it to make, have an opinion on that.
Okay. Oh, every time we talk about this case, Natalie, I just get madder and madder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and imagine how they feel.
Yes.
Yeah. How to, I don't know. It's a healthy 25-year-old. I think he was 25. Yes. Just die. It just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. And I feel like, I have 3 kids. As painful as I cannot even imagine losing one of my children, but also not having answers and not feeling like people, it's a very helpless, hopeless feeling on top of
Right.
the already most painful thing that I can imagine you would go through.
Let me tell you this, that'll make you even more alarmed. If you go back in this county to the mid to late 70s, and when I say the entire county, think of all the investigative agencies. Mm-hmm. East Ridge, Red Bank, City of Chattanooga, Sheriff's Office, Collegedale, Soddy Daisy, Signal Mountain. If you go back to the mid 70s, there are probably approximately 200 unsolved homicides in this county. And there are probably more, but record keeping, before the mid 70s is hard to, their procedures for record keeping weren't what they are these days. Mm-hmm. So think of that's, 200, approximately 200 deceased people in this county with loved ones who have no answers on who killed their loved one.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying in this case somebody killed him, but I know in those other 200 that those were deemed to be homicides after the autopsy.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole lot of people that have spent years and years of grief and not having any answers. It'd drive me crazy, I think.
Yep. Yes.
So, it compounds a huge issue, not just here locally, but, I would say that what were they calling the COVID, an epidemic or pandemic?
Pandemic.
Yeah. The cold case homicide is a nationwide situation because think we're just here in Hamilton County. And I think the last time the FBI reported there were over 200,000 unsolved murders in the United States.
Wow.
And so that, that's approaching 250,000 people.
Yeah.
But the flip side of it is if you think of, say there's 200 here, does that mean there are 200 killers out walking the streets? I don't know. Maybe so.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, very scary.
It's scary.
So yeah, that's my heart hurts for the Andersons, and obviously your all's does as well. It's just a horrible situation that I wish nobody would ever have to go through.
Not to uh not to dig a hole for myself here. So I'm gonna try and speak with the correct language, but with everything that we do know and everything that we know that we don't know, um, why and how would this happen? Um, to
What?
me, there's got to be a reason as to why this, especially in Gavin's case and in his death, why and how does this happen? How are so many steps missed? And it almost seems on purpose. How does this happen? Why would this happen?
Well, and I can only speculate to that. Those individual agencies or officers would have to be asked that question. But what it appears, and what I've in the materials provided for me to research and review, is that it appears to me that a decision was made early on that it was accidental, and they did not consider other possibilities. And so, from based upon that decision, kind of guided how they treated the rest of the case as far as preserving evidence, actually making sure an autopsy occurred, reporting right information to the family. And I don't know personally why the agency handled it the way they did, but you can, like you said, somebody made an early on decision that guided everybody else's thinking from there on.
Yeah.
And as they say, until you prove otherwise in the homicides, and I'm not saying this was a homicide, but everybody's a suspect, and you can't be too narrowly focused because you might miss something.
Yeah. Yep.
And they missed a lot. I mean, the only thing they collected was his phone. I mean,
yeah,
they did a toxology, and he had a sip of beer in his system. Like, what? I'm just dumbfounded.
Yeah,
right.
and the toxology, there was another discrepancy with
Yes.
that has kind of come to light, I believe, as well, with
Missing 2 pieces of like DNA or something in your DNA that everyone has, and Gavin just magically didn't have it.
Yeah, that would require a expert to explain that.
yeah.
And I'm not diminishing our intelligence, the three of us, or anybody else, but that stuff with DNA is so highly specialized. We would need an expert to explain that.
Definitely. I also feel like too, you know, it being said that, somebody just, whoever made the decision that this was, an accidental, unfortunate situation with how he died, and then every step after that kind of follows that. I have a hard time with that being claimed in the so quickly, especially, with the certain things that were going on or found at his apartment, like with the what the thermostat was set at, what
Right.
was going on with the breaker box, and just
His dog.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
right.
certain things that just don't add up or match well with something that
It's
is
accidental.
out of nowhere accident.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why those things about the thermostat, the breaker box, the dog, that's why you have to do the best you can to determine the answers to those questions. Now, you may not get the answers, or you may only get part of an answer, but for the family's sake, you got to keep fighting to figure out what happened.
Yes.
You need to do your job.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So many people did not do their job in this case, and it makes me
I don't
so
know
mad.
that I don't know they would talk to him, but they are the only ones that can answer why they did what they did.
Yep.
Mm.
Is there anything, so obviously this is, getting a lot of traction and a lot of awareness in the public.
Correct.
Is there anything that you feel like the public needs to know, whether it be about the case, about Gavin, about the Andersons, just anything that, they need to know, or anything that they might be able to do to help or assist?
I think what you all are doing is admirable, and I think the more that people know about him individually and about the circumstances of his life and the inadequacies of the investigation, they say sunlight is the best disinfectant. So the more that the public knows about that, maybe it inspires change somewhere, or
Yes.
inspires the next time or the next family, God forbid it happen, that this not happen to someone else.
Yes. Yes.
But the more light you put on a situation, you never know. Somebody might come forward with a little fact of information that nobody knew about before that could help alter the way we think about the case.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, like as a investigator or former prosecutor, these stories have a lot of pieces, like a jigsaw puzzle, and sometimes witnesses or people have information, but they think it's insignificant, and they're like, "Well, that won't help anyway. I'm not going to tell anybody that." But actually, in fact, even though it might be a little shard of information, it could open up doors that we didn't that have been closed to the investigation.
Yes.
It's like every penny counts kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And yeah, it might not be, one of the bigger middle centerpieces of the puzzle, but when you are working a puzzle, usually the quickest and most efficient way to do it is to start on the outside. And if you don't have that one corner piece or that one outside piece, you don't know that path is there to even explore, to do anything. So yeah, even the smallest bits of information are.
Or say we got 30 new pieces of information. It may not give the whole answer of what happened to Gavin, but it could give people with a reasonable mind to conclude, more likely than not, this is what happened. I can't say for certainty. We can't prosecute someone perhaps, but more likely than not, this is what happened.
Yes.
But for missing evidence and things of that nature, we're unable to give you a definitive answer.
Yep. Natalie, is there anything else that you had for now?
I don't think so.
Well, you got my contact info, and again, your all's efforts I appreciate that for the Andersons. And if I can help you all in the future, just let me know.
Well, we appreciate you and thank you for taking the time.
Yes,
All right.
thank you very much.
Have a good weekend, okay?
Happy
All right.
Labor Day.
Yes, ma'am. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Macy.
Yep. So what do you think? I mean, God.
I want to make flyers like who killed Gavin Anderson and put his phone, like Neil's phone number on it or his office number.
Yeah.
And post them everywhere.
Yeah. Or if maybe not who killed Gavin Anderson, but maybe like what happened to Gavin Anderson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gavin, we have questions. Gavin needs answers.
Yeah. Yeah. I was literally thinking this at the last second and I was like, I got to tell someone so I will remember.
I do that too. Yes. No, I think we should. And we can even like just have a graphic. I can make a graphic and we can start sharing it on social media too.
Yeah.
This is just it's so disheartening.
I know.
And what's crazy too is that the more that we look into this case and the more we get to know the Andersons and I know it's just I'm going to keep feeling this way more and more as we talk to Gavin's friends and other loved ones, but I feel like I just keep getting to know him.
Yeah.
And like, anytime we're working on this case or anytime we're recording or meeting with somebody, like, I swear, you remember when we were with the Andersons and I was like, I can like feel his energy.
Mhm.
Do you get that too? Like I get
Yes.
this such a sense of warmth, even though I'm like angry and like
Yeah.
I want to just like call people out so bad and say
Yeah.
cuss words.
Yeah.
I have this like this there's this aura that I swear anytime we're on this case or even, researching something, I have this crazy sense of just like warm energy.
Yeah.
That's
I
like
felt it
very calming.
I felt it. Well, I saw when we were with the Andersons, I looked over at you and you had like chill bumps. And
Yeah.
I immediately thought of Gavin. I was like,
Yes.
I feel like he's with
With
us or
us.
watching us
I
or,
agree. I
yeah.
agree. Like it's almost like he's just like,
Cheering us on.
yeah, like being supportive. Like
Yeah.
it's very interesting and not eerie at all. Like
No.
sometimes when your intuition is going or your gut is telling you something, like sometimes it's like, oh man, like I know that I can feel my gut right now. My intuition
Mhm.
is telling me something. I need to pay attention to what's going on.
Mhm.
But this is like, I don't know. It's just crazy. Like it literally just feels like he's like our third little host of expired.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't.
Okay. Well, send me that
So
audio.
I'll send you. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me stop the recording really quick. Oh, like, subscribe, leave us
Well, I'll put that at the
review.
end.
Oh, do
I
we need?
usually do like a voiceover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, don't be assholes, people. Okay, stopping the recording now.
What she said. Please subscribe, follow along. New episodes every Monday.